So welcome to the show, Anna Lucia.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning.
I am so excited to have you here. I mean, you and I have met on a couple of different occasions, and I've always been inspired, by you. I mean, the roles that you've had across supply chain are enviable. You've moved continents, and you're a woman after my own heart because I know you love coffee. So I'm really looking forward to chatting with you today and really diving deep for our audience into what that journey has looked like. So why don't you take me back to the beginning? You have a degree in industrial engineering, particularly as a woman. What drew you to that industry and how and why did you move across to supply chain and consumer supply chain?
Well, thank you, Sarah. I must say, what an insightful and thought-provoking question, taking me back
Mhm.
to why engineering, why industrial engineering, and why supply chain. So, um, let me start with the fact that both my parents were educators. And they were both professors at university. My dad led the education department, and my mom was a founding member and leading the Institute for the National Literature Studies in Guatemala. So my childhood was filled with a lot of great educational activities, and I
Okay.
was constantly encouraged to explore. So the intellectual curiosity was something on our daily basis. Our summers were filled with book assignments, and we had constant visits to the botanical park, to the national parks. We were really encouraged to explore and find solutions on our own. Even though like that sometimes when you're a child and you're trying to resolve your work, your homework, that might be a little frustrating, but it was really like prepping us for the future. So I think it started there, with my passion for um, problem solving and critical thinking. So I always wanted to find the answers, and I love puzzle. I love resolving complex situations, math and art. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to do in life, engineering seemed like a really good fit with where I wanted to go. Now, if you ask me why that leap into supply chain, I think it's combined with another passion of mine, couple of passions of mine, which is I love to connect the dots,
Okay.
um, and truly exploring what system thinking um, would actually bring. So, what is the ripple effect of the actions that we're taking here today, and then how is that going to be impacting or affecting or creating another ripple, like down the road? So, I found fascinating, in particular. The food supply chain, right?
Okay.
How is it
Mhm.
possible that we're here, like all around the world, and then we have access to these fantastic bananas or any other type of amazing produce that is only produced in a certain region in the world?
Mhm.
um, and because I also love food, it was a natural jump for me going and applying all these different transferable skills into supply chain.
I love that. I think we did a post or I talked about it on Thoughts and Coffee about the coffee supply chain. Because it's really interesting from origin to destination. And I don't think a lot of people think about that, right? I mean, if you look at a pen like this, there's so many different components that go into just a pen that you don't really think about how those different components come together to make that pen. And so I can totally understand, how supply chain just fascinated you in that way. And you mentioned that you grew up in Guatemala. What made you move to America and what was that change like? I've had a lot of guests on the show who originate from a variety of different countries. And it always stands out to me that their experience of being an immigrant really shapes their journey and their careers moving forward. And actually, for our blended episode in August, we're going to be talking about what it's like in immigration and being an immigrant to a new country. So I'd love to get your take on that.
Well, I think since I can remember, like back in my early childhood, I always had this inner drive to see the world and
Mm.
learn new different ways of working and living. So very early on, I wanted to start traveling. I wanted to learn new customs. I wanted to explore new traditions and try new foods. You can see food is a theme here.
I
Um,
love it.
but also growing up, I had a very strong influence at home because my mom was an exchange student living in Ohio when she was in high school.
Mm.
And additional due to the proximity that we have geographically, right? We have a very strong influence from the American culture in our country. So I grew up watching, like shows like Saved by the Bell or Dawson's Creek and Frasier. So I really wanted to see the Space Needle, and I knew that at a point in time I wanted to just like go and be there. Um, and and I think the biggest benefit that I gained from traveling and really living abroad was how it actually grew me as a person and taught me how to be truly independent. Because I left pretty early in my life, and I had to learn a lot of different things that I had no idea that you have to take care of, and how to keep a budget at home, how to cook, how to really, like navigate the world and try to understand, like how things can be done in a different way and offer great results. So if you ask me, like how this has been shaping my experience as a professional and my career, I think it is truly the gift of being able to see different perspectives because it has allowed me to think differently.
Right.
I had the opportunity to have an exchange while I was still in university. Um, and I actually went to Poland. I lived there for
Oh,
um, close to 5 months. And I was so impressed because buses will come on time. And there was like this timetable that it was, like at the bus station, right? That I was like, telling me when they were going to come, right? So a lot of time has happened and changes, like back home in terms of time schedules, but it just gives you an idea in terms of how interested I was in terms of logistics and thinking about, like how can you maximize the opportunities abroad, like really trying to take what's the best out there and seeing if you can make things here better by bringing them in.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think shared perspective or different perspectives, right? You're bringing your perspective from Guatemala into Poland, and then you've got a perspective from living in Poland and now living in the US. I mean, I think it's all just about the experience, and it makes you who you are and what you can bring to the table as far as your career. So, you've worked at Starbucks for over 6 years now. You've had some great roles, and it seems like you've been able to experience different areas within the business, which I think is amazing because I always encourage people try everything, right? So, what has that experience been like for you? What's the culture like, particularly as a Latina woman?
Well, Sarah, I must say it has been a truly fantastic experience.
Mm.
It is an organization that really cares about our customers, the well-being of the partners, because that's how we call ourselves, partners in the organization, and also things long term in terms of how to develop solutions that are sustainable. How can we really make a difference in the communities that we're present? Um, and it is a very inclusive and diverse culture. It really encourages you to bring your whole self to work,
I
and I
love
think
that.
that makes a difference because
Mhm.
one of the things that truly impressed me when I joined was the significant amount of women in leadership roles
Mhm.
um, that were in across the enterprise. Um, which was extremely exciting for me because you do need to see yourself in different parts of the organizations to sustain your growth. And Also, as an organization, Starbucks is very focused on growing you as an individual. So, really exposing yourself into different opportunities. So, they will make a bet on you. And if you want to do like lateral moves that will allow you to round your experience or really, be able to grow you and scale your leadership, they are willing to invest in you to be able to take that opportunity and keep just moving forward. So it has been a very refreshing experience for me, and I'm a true believer, that given that we embrace diversity so strongly and inclusion, that is a true catalyst for innovation. And this culture fosters innovation and different ways of thinking. So very, very good experience.
I'm so glad that you said that, and how diverse perspectives really drives innovation. Because a lot of times we talk about innovation and where the ideas come from and new technology as a part of innovation. But innovation really starts with people. And it really starts with people from diverse perspectives coming together, sharing their thoughts, sharing the experiences that they've had in their personal lives. And like you said, bringing their whole sales selves to work. I mean, that in one sentence is amazing and exactly what I see of Starbucks when I think about the brand. And so, it's amazing how you can translate all of that just through a brand, right? And so I wouldn't have expected anything else from you. So other than coffee, what's your favorite food? Because I'm seeing a theme here and it's all about food and you love food. So I want to know, what is your favorite food?
Well, I do have I think the soft spot is for um produce and
Okay.
agricultural products. I love seeing the overall supply chain or the flow, all the way from the very beginning, like how products like bananas or like coffee
Yeah.
really drive um the way communities, like are organized or how you live. So um I honestly think, it also fuels with the fact that I smile when I have this type of product. So, for example, there's nothing better than having a banana and coffee in the morning, because they make you smile. So knowing that, like you're really behind that supply chain of smiles, is really, something very powerful for me. Now, if you ask me, like personally, what I do love eating, I
Yep.
must say I love a lot of different types of food. I am a big fan of pizza and fries. Uh,
Love it.
and I think, like I could have them, very frequently, if not for some self restraint. But yes, I do enjoy food, and I love very different types of food. I'm a true explorer, I would say, in terms of culinary experiences, and I honestly think the passion or the love that comes from that is because of how we were really, like back in the days at home, um, we were all gathered as a family around the
Mhm.
table. So in Guatemala, we have a lot of different traditional dishes
Mhm.
that take probably like 2 or 3 days to prepare. And
Wow.
for example, by the end, yeah, for the holiday, so for Christmas, we have a typical dish that is called tamales. And at home, my grandma was the central focal point of how the tamales were going to be created. It was a big event. Um, now that I think of it, maybe that's where I started gathering my supply chain
Yeah,
passion, because I would come, with my grandma to the market, and we will, like source directly all the different materials. That was, like part of the procurement and sourcing of goods.
yeah,
And then, there would be like a preparation, like getting everything ready until we were,
manufacturing.
in that last stage, for the assembly, right? And we all had different roles. So my sister, my mom, me, we will all, like come and gather, and we would spend hours just building each one of them, like before they would actually go into cooking. So
Amazing.
I think, it's the care and the dedication that we put together in how all this food is prepared, and then sharing it with your family or your community, bringing everyone together, having these gatherings and this conversation. I think
Yeah.
that makes a difference.
Yeah, and the experience, right? And what you've just described is supply chain at its best, is the community coming together and sharing something so that you can share that with, I mean, family and friends, yes, but I guess the end consumer would be our family and friends, right? Because of
Yeah.
everything that we put into getting that product or that food, or, the piece of food that might go into, a huge family dinner that just brings smiles to everybody's faces. And so I love you, Anna Lucia, and I'm so glad that you came on this show. But I want to get back to you taking over the role that you're in today. I believe you took it over about a year ago, and that was roughly at the start of COVID. So what have you seen over the last year in terms of, like customer demand and supply chain disruption? Everybody's going through it right now. So how are you dealing with that?
Well, Sarah, this yes, as you correctly pointed out, I think that we're all going through the same situation, and we're all facing unprecedented volatility and
Mhm.
uncertainty, in all different aspects, in terms of supply in general, and demand, most importantly. So what I think, it would be, it has been remarkable. It's how the supply chains of the world have stepped up to the challenge. And
Mhm.
even though, there has been bumps, right? Because, like things change overnight. Um, our supply chain's creativity has been pushed to the max. And at least, like in terms of our teams, I've been so impressed with the passion and the drive. It has been very intense in our teams because it has been nonstop. Um, but the teams, take it, like very close to their hearts, that the products need to make it to the stores. And
Mhm.
they work relentlessly to build resilient and flexible solutions that would allow to really, really prioritize all this product coming to the store. So I, uh, I think, this is a transformational and pivotal point for all of us, because we will have to continue thinking about long, sustainable delivery of goods, and we will have to do it in a very different way. We will have to be resilient, but also we will have to be very flexible, so then we can continue adjusting to the
Mhm.
changes that we're actually being facing. And then the other piece that I think is different, and there's no turning back now, is that now supply chain is famous, because
Mhm.
for the first time, and I was so excited that I actually recorded it. I saw supply chain on TV. I saw supply
Yeah.
chain commercials. And I think that is transformational in terms of the future, giving, the rightful place for supply chain as a function, and also inspiring, like this new generation of leaders and potential supply chain professionals of the future,
Yes.
about joining a team that makes things happen,
Mhm.
but also embedding, the sustainability and the long term sustainment of solutions in the mix. So I think it is very exciting. It has been very intense, and our teams did rely, like in fantastic cross-functional across the enterprise collaboration. I think that's the other key element now more than ever. Organizations need to be able to pull in and then come together as one team, and I
Yeah.
have seen that, and it is very exciting.
It is so exciting. I was like you. I was like a kid in a candy store when I heard supply chain come out of a politician's mouth, or I heard procurement. The word procurement, I mean, supply chain is one thing, procurement is a whole other. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And I'm glad that you brought that up. I mean, we've started a new show with Abby Baird, who is in the University of Arkansas, taking supply chain management. And so she's doing a live show for us, really encouraging the next generation of supply chain professionals and showing them what it's like to be in this industry. And I think it's super important. And I think the other thing that you mentioned that was really important too is sustainability. And before Starbucks, you worked at Chiquita, and your final role there before you moved on was Director of Continuous Improvement and Sustainability, which I love. And the listeners will probably know that, I've been working with LinkedIn on an introduction to supply chain sustainability course. And so I'd just love to hear your thoughts. Are we as an industry doing enough? Do you think that we're headed maybe in the right direction, or what kinds of changes, were you implementing in that role that maybe others can implement in their organizations?
Well, I think I was reflecting. I was reflecting on that role very recently, and I do believe that role in particular is the unlock for a perfect combination in our sustainability journey, which
Mhm.
was, like combining continuous improvement and sustainability.
It's
And
so
just
true. Mhm.
right, right, and
Mhm.
just to give you an example, in that role, I had the opportunity to really um, combine elements that will be making a difference for our environment, but at the same time will continue to drive operational excellence, which is so critical for this sustained long-term solutions. So, for example, in salad production, one of the areas where you invest a lot of energy is in the drying of the leaves.
Oh,
And in yes, you spend time after the wash, after like going through the cleaning process. You actually have to dry them. And in partnership with R&D, we managed to successfully reduce the drying time, and that was a phenomenal breakthrough, because not only we allowed our utilization to go up. We prevented additional expense in additional dryers, but we also increased the quality of the product. So when you think about that, that's the perfect solution, is the trifecta, because you are really catering to deliver a product that is meeting your or exceeding the customer expectations,
yeah.
but you're also focusing on the environment and making certain that there's a sustainment, operational excellence to be able to have that on the go for a very long time. So I think there's a lot of different opportunities like that we
Mhm.
can continue to support.
I love that. And I'm so glad that you shared that example, right? Because I think too many times we'll go and pick up a bag of salad or a box of, lettuce or whatever from the grocery store. And we don't really think, like my example earlier with the pen, what goes into it and what people are actually thinking about to help with sustainability, not only in the supply chain, but also with the consumer product. And so, really thinking about the consumer, but also thinking about the environment and the world that we all live in. So, we touched on your experiences early on studying industrial engineering. But what have your experiences been? Like as a Latina woman throughout your corporate career, working at big name brands, for any of the Latina women or maybe men in the audience, have you faced any challenges because on the Blended podcast, the podcast that we have around diversity and inclusion, people always have a story to tell. And, did you have a mentor, maybe somebody that helped you or opened up an opportunity for you along the way? I just recorded a Blended episode on social inequality. And one of the things that came out of that episode was that it just takes one person to make a huge impact in somebody's life by giving them an opportunity to speak up, or giving them a safe space, or helping them to find opportunities, or giving them a helping hand up. So, just curious as to what your story has been, and if you face challenges and what that's been like, and how you resolved that, or if you had a mentor or somebody in your corner along the way.
Well, thank you for that reflection, Sarah. I would say, like most of the environments for my studies and work um, have been male dominated. So
Mhm.
I kind of, in a way, I've been used most of my life until recently to be the minority in the room,
Mhm.
or not see that many that look like me in the room. And I think as a young professional, this created a challenge as I didn't have any female role models in leadership positions that I could learn from,
Mhm.
or that could help me dream about what was next. So frequently, at earlier parts of my career, I was given feedback that I was not assertive enough, or that I was not bold enough, or concise enough, and that I was too nice. So there were certain moments in time when I really felt I just wanted to blend in,
Mhm.
and that is this is a very vulnerable moment, but it is really, like a challenge that I faced at certain points in my career, and I feel very fortunate that I had the influence of my grandma and my parents,
Mhm.
who truly encouraged me to pursue my dreams. Um, and they did that leading by example, because they taught me a great and very strong work ethic, and how I needed to foster diversity, how I should never stop learning, how I need to give back, and most importantly, that I had to always believe in myself. So I am very thankful for that drive that I got early from home, but also very grateful because along the way, I've also had great leaders, great mentors, and sponsors who created new opportunities for me, um, challenged me to stretch out of the comfort zone, and invested in me.
Mhm.
So I do believe that the responsibility we have as leaders is really, to pave the way for the next generations and find these opportunities to help someone along the way. It's either, like providing clear, objective, on the spot feedback that is going to help
Mhm.
you grow,
Yeah.
or encouraging male or female young professionals to think differently, and maybe take an opportunity that might not be what they consider mainstream, but that might give them, a different aspect on how to develop themselves.
Mhm. So when they told you that you weren't assertive enough, how did you find your voice from that?
That is a great question. So I think I can go back to the very exact moment when that happened, and um, I in one of my very, very previous roles early in my career, I had the opportunity to be part of a very senior leadership team. I often was one of the two women in the room, And there were a lot of really great conversations and topics and debates. And every single session, I had so many different questions, but I could feel, like my inner critic telling me to stay low, or maybe just like to revisit that question like two or three different times. And
Right.
I will always even question like, do I have the right terms? Am I using the right word in English to be able to express that? But I remember vividly there was this particular session where um, there was a very critical topic that was being discussed, and I had something to say that no one else had said. And I felt, like the rush through my veins and butterflies in my belly. Um, Even, like my voice quivering. Um, but I participated. And I actually expressed an opinion that was somehow opposed to the vast majority of the senior leaders in the room. And the room actually went quiet. And I felt, oh, is this is this a turning point in my career? Um, and it was a turning point in my life because it was a liberating moment. And I I my comment, my idea, my feedback, my voice was very well received. So in a way, it was almost like I left tons of inner criticism, doubt behind, and it was very liberating to find my voice. I actually think it was transformative for me because I it made me realize that it really doesn't matter how my voice sounds. What it really matters is what my voice says and what I
Mhm.
am actually advocating for. So I do have a responsibility um, to share a different perspective, to encourage, the rest of the my peers to think differently. If something hasn't been said, um, that is, like part of the responsibility you actually gain when you start getting, like more responsibilities in other leadership positions. So
Mhm.
it's it is a very powerful vivid memory that I carry because I since then I've been embracing my voice as it is. I am not actually concerned about like trying to emulate someone else's accent. I am embracing my accent, and I really want to invest time and effort like refining, growing, and expanding my ideas and my message rather than trying to sound like everyone else.
That is going to resonate with so many. I'm so glad that you shared that example for us. So, what does the future hold for you, Ana Lucia? What do you see the future being?
Well, I think the future is bright, filled with so many different opportunities. I've been finding more and more that a true passion of mine, along with supply chain and sustainability, is truly helping other leaders be successful and developing the new generations of leaders that are going to be coming to the workplace. So truly, for me, the future, um, it's hopeful about like how can we make certain that we just bring along a different way of thinking about how we're going to be solving some of these complex problems that we have in terms of resources or even finding new solutions for the communities. How do
Mhm.
we keep, bring everyone along? So it is really not about slowing down the pace, because I do love, like moving forward and exploring new opportunities. It is
Yeah.
really about learning new ways on how we can bring everyone along.
Yeah, and it's an exciting time to be in supply chain. I mean, as a supply chain leader, you know as well as I do, there's lots of different things that people are thinking about, from an organizational standpoint, and the focus, more of a focus being on supply chain. And so, like you said, the future is bright, and it's really exciting time to be in supply chain. So, one final question, because I want to know, what advice do you have for girls and women that might want to follow in your footsteps into supply chain? What would you tell them?
Well, I think that the first thing would be it is it is really not about being perfect, but always being better.
Hmm.
I think, sometimes for a lot of different reasons, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and that sometimes even prevents us from um, taking a risk or putting our name in the hat for one position. We look and we really try to have 100% of the requirements for a role
Hmm.
before we apply. And I think, it is about your ability to learn, your ability to be coachable and explore new opportunities. Um, the second piece would be our voice carries a very important message and it needs to be heard. So I would actually encourage us as women to continue exploring areas that might not be as as explored by women in general. And I think supply chain has come a long way, but still, like continues to benefit from how women think. So we need more women joining, the different areas and opportunities in supply chain, so that we can continue driving balance and making certain that we have really holistic uh, diverse solutions, because the problems that we have ahead really require that different way of thinking.
Yeah.
Um, and then a couple of things which like have been like some of the lessons I've had in my life is we have to believe in ourselves. We have to be open to ask for help. We have to trust our instinct because we do have great instincts and we have to go for it.
Hmm.
Um, we absolutely will do our pros and cons SWOT analysis and take calculated risks, but you have to trust your instinct. Um, Continue to have a very strong work ethic, but work smart, and reach out to role models and ask for advice. I think sometimes we're very um, cautious or concerned about, like reaching out to other leaders and ask for their experiences. But I would actually encourage to just reach out. I think that leaders in general are so excited when um, new partners or new professionals are just asking, like what can I continue to do to grow my
Hmm.
career? So
Yeah.
just reach
And
out.
I love that, and such great advice. And listen to shows like this to hear about other people's journeys and really get a good understanding of what that has looked like and how it can look like for you. You know what I mean? So, what an incredible journey. I mean, you've moved countries and worked across so many different areas of the industry to become VP of Global Supply Chain Strategy at one of the world's biggest brands. I mean, what an inspiration. And I'm sure I have learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience has learned a lot from you. And I'm excited to see what you do next. So thank you so much, Ana Lucia, for coming on the show, for sharing so authentically, and for giving us some insight into your journey.
Thank you, Sarah. I feel very honored to be here. Thank you so much.